And we're going to give it another couple minutes or so to allow folks to join us. So if you have any questions in the meantime, I'm happy to try to answer them. Otherwise, hello, everyone. And let's see. Yashua, did I say your name correctly?
Yeah.
Awesome. I want to hear you say it now.
Yashua.
Yeshua. Okay, good. Good to see you guys tonight. Like I was saying, we'll get started in just a couple more minutes. Any questions while we're waiting, though?
How many weeks is this class?
This one is 5.
Okay.
Yep. So we go through December 6th.
And then will there be like an extra long break?
Mm-hmm.
Next one, then it start in January?
That's right. Absolutely.
Okay. Put that on my calendar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the next one starts January 10th. So it is a very long break.
Oh, January. Wow. Okay. I'm going to write that down now. Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? Any questions about how to find the materials for the class?
Yes, how?
Okay, so I'll walk us through that process so that because it'll make more sense if I walk you through that process. So see someone else joining who might be new, so I'll wait to start that and show that in a minute. Any other questions that I can try to address right now, though? Hi, Cole. Uh-oh. Cole's freezing up a little bit. There you are. Yeah, so I will go through the process and share my screen and show everyone, kind of give a refresher for how to find information. In just a minute, we'll start in maybe another minute or so. But welcome everybody. We are live on YouTube right now. All right, so I do want to welcome everyone to module number 7, which means we're like halfway through the 2-year cycle of discovering Buddhism, which is exciting. And so this one does run 5 sessions. So we start tonight and go through the next 5 Mondays, and that puts us ending on Monday, December 6th. Yeah. And as far as course materials go, I am gonna go ahead and share my screen and kind of walk you through that process real quick. There we go. Oh, that's not what I wanted to share. That's us on YouTube. Oh, wrong share. Oh, Leah, can you hear us now? I just saw your message. Got it. Okay, great. Welcome. I'm getting ready to walk us through where to find course materials. If I can successfully do that. Here we go. Let's try this one. No, that's not it either. See, I practice all this stuff before class, and then when I go to do it, it's like not there. It's still not. Oh, that was it. It was, I just need to switch the screen. I'm sorry. You think I'd never done this before. All right, here we go. Whew. All right, so here we are at the Kadampa Center webpage. And so this is just kadampa-center.org. Hopefully you all have been there before now. And so in order to be here on Zoom, you would have come to this website. And, one of my favorite places that everyone knows is the calendar. So to me, that's one of the easiest places to try to find information. And so then you can just click on whatever date and class that you're interested in. And then from there, in the case of Discovering Buddhism, then you would be able to simply enroll here. And then once you enroll, you instantly get an email, and I think even a page online pops up, and it prompts you or it gives you the Zoom link and the Zoom information, but also it gives you a username and a password. And that's what you need to access the information on the website. And so to get to that sign-in page, the login page, you'll just go to kadampa-center.org and then do a /user. Okay, so see that up there, kadampa-center.org/user. And then you come to this page and you have to scroll down this members only area. And then here's where you would type in that username. And so for us, for Discovering Buddhism participants, it's DB-participant. And then you'll have the password in your email. And so I'm going to type that in right quick. Hopefully I have that. Okay. And then you log in. All right, and that brings you to the materials page. And so here we have Discovering Buddhism material, and all the previous modules are listed here. And pretty much for all of them, there's an information page, and then there's no homework yet, but after tonight, this link that says homework will be live. Prayers for classes is here. These are the prayers that we will use in class, but you can also use them at home if you would like to. And so for Refuge in the Three Jewels, you would simply, for the information sheet, you could click right on that and it'll open up. There it is. And it has all the information you need about this particular module, Refuge in the Three Jewels. So you see the instructor is Robbie. We'll hear from him momentarily, I promise, Robbie. And then to gain access to the course materials, all these links you can click on, but we're actually here right now. And then here are the dates of the class, the readings. So this would be probably part of the homework. So the readings can be found here. You just click on those, and those are online readings. And then for each module, there may be some books that are recommended as well, either recommended, or if you're going for a certificate through the FPMT, that's the Foundation for the Preservation of the Mahayana Tradition, then you would also keep track of everything. And how to get an FPMT certificate is on the second page. And there's a lot of information here. So read through that and go to these websites for the FPMT for more information about that. One thing that I didn't want to forget is, of course, everything that we do at Kadampa Center is free of charge and primarily ran by volunteers like Robbie and myself and many, many, many others. So if you feel so compelled to make a donation, it helps us, of course, keep the lights on and keep teachings like these free. And so here are all the different ways that you can give to Kadampa Center. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen now and ask if there's any questions. Did all of that make sense to everyone?
Linda, let me just add one thing.
Yes.
I'm going to have the classes go for an hour, okay, 7 to 8. not to
Okay.
8:30. I think for me, that's a Zoom max is 1 hour.
Thank you, Robbie.
Okay, so,
Yeah, in this day of technology, it is there's a lot of Zoom fatigue, and hopefully everyone's familiar with Zoom by now. But whether you're on YouTube, watching on YouTube or on Zoom, if you would like to leave a comment or a question, you can just go to the chat box and type that in. And again, I'll be monitoring it on YouTube as well. So feel free to leave a question there. All right, I think I am all finished, Robbie. So I'm going to turn it over to you.
okay, thank you, Linda. Wonderfully organized there. I really appreciate the work you've done in getting that in a very usable manner. It's very helpful for me, and I know will be helpful for all the participants. I'd like to welcome everybody to this beginning of this module. This is Refuge in the Three Jewels, and we'll talk about what those words mean. The last module was karma, and karma and refuge make a wonderful pair together, and we'll be referring back to the previous module on karma at times. But if you didn't take one, that's not a problem. Let's see, let me just get everybody where they can raise your hand. Has anybody taken this module before? Okay, Linda and Mike have, okay. Did I teach it when y'all took it before? Do you remember? I can't remember.
You know, Robbie, I think you did.
I think I did last time, okay. Do we have anybody who this is their first module in Discovering Buddhism? Okay, one person, great. Glad to have you here. And do you have anybody who's never actually been to Kadampa Center physically, who's just joining us? Okay, great. Okay, so that's all good. So as I said, I'll be limiting these classes to an hour, 7 to 8. I like to start on time and finish on time, so I think you can be pretty confident that it'll be on schedule. We have 5 weeks, and I think we'll cover this topic pretty thoroughly in that time. We're going to start with video, Linda, is that correct? So I think we can go ahead. This is from the FPMT. It's one of their promotional videos for Discovering Buddhism. So we'll watch that and then we'll start our course.
Okay, and y'all bear with me. You know, like I said, I practiced this ahead of time, but inevitably, especially with this video, and excuse any ads that might pop up, I'll try to get rid of those as quickly as possible. All right, so here we go.
When we are uncomfortable or anything unpleasant happens, we look to take refuge in something. Usually we turn to food, alcohol, sex, drugs, money, power, or relationships. But none of these things gives us the lasting protection or satisfaction we're looking for. When you understand you can't find lasting happiness in samsara, then the desire to find true refuge becomes strong. In Buddhism, we take refuge in the three jewels, the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. The Buddha is like the doctor who understands your disease and knows how to treat it. The Dharma, his teachings, is the medicine he prescribes, and the Sangha is the spiritual community that helps you to take the medicine. To take refuge is to finally seek protection from suffering in a way that can really help you. When we think about the ultimate nature of reality and what causes us to suffer, this is the true meaning of refuge.
What story tonight? As the terrorist rebellion enters another year,
Before listening to these or any teachings, it's essential to prepare one's heart and mind in the appropriate way, to set one's attitude in the highest intention to be able to benefit all living beings. Now, you're about to listen to teachings on taking refuge in the three jewels, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. And this motivation, in and of itself, is taking refuge in the path to enlightenment. So in order to gain the most from listening to these teachings, right now, generate in your mind strongly the determination to be able to achieve enlightenment as quickly as possible in order to be of the highest benefit to each and every suffering living being.
We may think that taking refuge is just a Buddhist thing, a Buddhist topic, but actually we've been doing it all our life. We always try to take some kind of refuge, go for refuge, when we notice that we're suffering. And of course, when we were very young, the first refuge we had was our mother. Whenever something went wrong, we went running to our mother. And she was quite a wonderful refuge as a child. Seemed to solve all our problems for us, or most of them. But as we grew older, then we found that maybe our mother couldn't solve all our problems, so we discovered or had to find other refuges. And these were our friends, the friends we found, and then as we grow older, we look for other refuges, particularly our wealth. We all believe, most of us, most of the time, that money will be able to protect us from suffering and bring happiness. So we find a refuge in money, especially in our society now. This is the main refuge. It used to be religion, some kind of religion. Now it's money or power. We take refuge in drugs, socially accepted drugs like alcohol. These are all types of refuge. We go to them thinking, hoping, believing that they will afford some kind of protection, somehow will bring an end to the suffering. Yeah. Also food. This is a very popular form of refuge. Sex. Everything we do, actually, is some kind of refuge from suffering, and also at the same time, we hope Not only will it stop the suffering, but bring happiness. But we discover with experience that all these different things that we've relied on as some kind of refuge are not a complete refuge. They don't completely solve our problems. They don't bring an end to our suffering completely. And maybe some of us come to the Buddha Dharma because we've discovered that the things we've relied on in the past to overcome our suffering and bring some happiness, not one of them really works. And even all of them together, all of these ordinary forms of refuge, even all of them combined, don't work. They don't really stop our suffering, and especially the causes of our suffering. What we need to take refuge in is something perfect, unbetrayable, pure mind, free of all faults, possessing all qualities. And that is the definition of Buddha mind, enlightened mind. Only that is unbetrayable, something that we can completely rely on and can give every solution. Because one of the good qualities of enlightened mind is that it is omniscient, knowing everything, so therefore can't make mistakes. So when we recognize that we have suffering and the causes of it, we also recognize that this all arises because of ignorance, the wrong view of self that we have, the wrong view that we have of the way all phenomena exist. So this poison in our mind, this afflicted thought of ignorance, is like the worst possible disease that we could have. It's the worst disease because it gives rise to every other disease. The only reason we experience sickness and death is because of karma. And karma is created because of delusions, and delusions depend on the presence of ignorance. If we really recognize that, we have to find someone who is the perfect doctor, and that perfect doctor is the Buddha. Because that Buddha, that perfect doctor of the Buddha, has themselves freed themselves of every disease. They know every disease and the cure for every disease. They've cured themselves of every disease. They know how to cure us. And the medicine, the perfect medicine, is the teachings, the Dharma. And the Arya Sangha, meaning the ordained followers of the Buddha who have practiced intensively and gained a direct insight into the nature of themselves and phenomena. The Sangha are like the nurses who help us take the medicine, tell us when, remind us when to take it, how to take it, in what dosage, and so on. And they inspire us to do so. As an ordinary worldly person, we are always seeking happiness in the external world, out there. And all our suffering and problems, we put the blame on that, on something out there, someone out there. But when we take refuge, or when we do refuge, we become an inner being. We make this conscious recognition that the source of my suffering is not out there, it's within me. When we first take refuge, that's what we recognize. The moment we start to recognize for ourselves and understand that the real cause of my suffering is not out there, but it's inside, and that the real cause of happiness is not out there, but within me. As soon as we have really understood that at some level, then we have refuge. We become an inner being. We realize that everything, good and bad, is in us, and we have to work from within, cultivating the garden of our mind. When we become an inner being, we become a practitioner of the law of cause and effect. we see that that is the key to everything.
So as in conventional expression, we say that if there is a threat, seek a refuge somewhere. So similarly, in the context of spiritual practice, to protect oneself from the threat of unfortunate or unfavorable rebirth, one needs to seek refuge in the three jewels. So when we speak about taking refuge in the context of Buddhism, we must understand that actually there are different levels of refuge and different types of refuge. For example, the highest form of refuge would be that of a Mahayana practitioner, where the refuge that you are seeking from is the thread of being caught in the extremes of samsaric existence on the one hand and isolated nirvana, solitary nirvana on the other. So to be protected from these two extremes of samsaric existence and peace, you seek the attainment of Buddhahood, that is the embodiment of Dharmakaya, the Buddha body of reality, and Rupakaya, the Buddha body of perfect form. And not only that, but also you seek such an enlightened state for the benefit of all sentient beings. And this kind of going for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha is that of the Mahayana practitioner. And also the refuge that you are seeking from is much more comprehensive. So then we can also recognize a second level of going for refuge, where the protection that is being sought from, the refuge that is being sought from, is the suffering of conditioning, the pervasive conditioning, and also the suffering of being caught in cyclic existence, and also your fear of the destructive power of all the negative emotions and thoughts. And in order to seek refuge from that, you go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, and which embodies the total transcendence of cyclic existence and the sufferings, particularly the suffering of conditioning. And then there is also again a third level of third kind of taking refuge, where the spiritual aspirant is seeking refuge only from a sort of an immediate threat, which is the threat of being reborn in the lower realms of existence and having a tremendous sense of fear for that possibility, and then seeking refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha to provide protection from that. And here, so when we talk about this kind of refuge, the threat that we are seeking refuge from is the possibility of suffering in the lower realms of existence. So when we think about lower realms of existence, we should not think of a place so far away in the distant future. This is not really the case, because what divides us from the present moment and such a possibility of next life in the lower realms of existence is simply the continuity of this breath that we all inhale and exhale. The moment that ceases, the next life is right there in front of you.
So we go for refuge to Dharma. When we go for refuge to Dharma, we go for refuge to Buddha, who taught the Dharma. We go for refuge to Sangha, who are the helpers. So the wish to practice Dharma leads to the practice of going for refuge. Yeah? And the first advice, from the Buddhas, when we go for refuge, is to observe our karma. Be mindful of our actions, so we don't create negative actions to be born in the lower realms of existence. Our mind is the cause of suffering and happiness. It arises out of our mind. So it's much more important to protect our mind than to protect our body. It's much more important to protect a positive, state of mind than to protect our possessions, our body, and external things. Yeah? But we have a habit of thinking they are more important than our mind. So we trash our mind and we protect our body. We have to learn how to accept trashing our body to protect our mind. Because it's with anger and hatred and aggression that we destroy our happiness. So my purpose is not to harm others. You think my purpose is to practice Dharma, to extend kindness, compassion to others, so that you generate a state of refuge in your mind. And remember, oh yes, ultimate purpose of my life is, to awaken my mind to benefit others. And for this I rely on Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. So we say we need these three jewels. They are jewels because they help us overcome our problems and put us on a safe and sound direction in life. But the purpose of going for refuge to Buddha, Dharma, Sangha externally is to develop those qualities within ourselves. You can have different meanings of refuge, because there's a kind of inner refuge and there's an outer refuge. When we say we go for refuge, we can also say, I take refuge in my own wisdom. Yeah? But since our wisdom is limited, and we need to develop our wisdom, we have to rely on beings with greater wisdom than ourselves. So that's why we rely on Buddha, who teaches perfect wisdom. So we go for refuge to Buddha, that's external refuge, to develop our own inner refuge. And then we go for refuge to Dharma, which is the wisdom itself, in the mind of Buddha. Yeah? In the mind of Buddha, that perfect wisdom, understanding relative and ultimate truth, understanding the law of cause and effect, And so we go for refuge to that wisdom to gain perfect wisdom ourselves. Yeah? That's the Dharma. And then we go for refuge to Sangha, because Sanghas are the helpers on the path, They say that this state of refuge, generating a state of refuge and compassion completely stops lower rebirth. It is impossible to take a lower rebirth when your state of mind is focused on refuge and compassion. It blocks. So that's the best state of mind for us ordinary people to die in, to actually be in a state of mind of refuge. Bodhicitta, compassion.
you know, in the past, I often looked to drugs a good amount for taking refuge, whether smoking pot or whatever various drugs I was doing, or alcohol. The teachings say that it's harmful to do activities like that, and to my mind at the time, that wasn't so appealing, I guess I would say. Like, I just wanted to keep doing that, going out and having fun with my boyfriend and taking drugs or getting drunk or whatever. But more and more I started thinking about the teachings they were giving me, and that taking refuge in external things like that can't bring any kind of lasting happiness. I started to find that not only were the experiences I had on drugs and alcohol not so fun anymore, and were actually more of a suffering experience and brought even more confusion to my mind. I found that the more I took refuge in doing my practices every day and to going to teachings instead of to parties and to get drugs and to voluntarily trying to quiet my mind, that the teachings were working and that I was finding more stability inside, more peace, more ability to work better at my job. And I think the coolest thing about refuge, as I've gone on, is that the more I wholeheartedly give myself to refuge and have faith in it, really cool things have started to happen in terms of things that I've always really wanted have actually been able to happen. The kind of people I've wanted to be around show up. Really amazing teachers keep coming into my life. If there's a teaching I've been wanting, it will almost drop into my lap. By and large, I'm a happier person than I was without refuge. And it's my inner experience of having taken refuge that I've seen a change in my mind. I don't even need to check with anybody outside to see if they've seen a change in me or if refuge has made me a better person, because I've experienced it. When people ask me if refuge has made a difference, it's 100% yes, if not more.
Okay, thank you, Linda. That video, like the other introductory videos that we have for each module, was produced by the FPMT, or the Foundation for the Preservation of the Mahayana Tradition, quite a mouthful we refer to as the FPMT. And that's the worldwide organization that Kadampa Center is part of. There are about 170 centers around the world. Many of the people that, because of our membership in FPMT, we have access to wonderful teachers. And many of the people that you saw in that video have been to Kadampa Center, though His Holiness has not yet come here, and we haven't managed to snag Keanu either to drop by. Every time I see him pop up there, I kind of do a double take. But that's great that he did it, that he volunteered his time. So everything that we're going to talk about over the next few weeks was at least touched on in that video. So it's a very good introduction, I think. It may have been a little bit jargony if you're a newcomer, but that's okay. We'll go into what some of these words actually mean. I like to begin each session with our prayers. So I think, Linda, you can pull those up, maybe without the LL Bean advertisement in there. His Holiness the Dalai Lama shops at LL Bean. Okay. These are the prayers that we say routinely at Kadampa Center. And if you're a newcomer, they may not make much sense at all, but that's okay. Buddhism is a non-theistic religion. So people frequently ask, why do we say prayers if there's no God or all-powerful being? And Venerable Connie touched on that in the beginning of the motivation. Beginning of the video, we say the prayers to set our motivation and to prepare our mind for the discussion and teachings that are to follow. Excuse me. So we'll start with refuge and bodhicitta 3 times, then the 4 immeasurables, and then the short mandala offering. And I'm not going to explain these tonight. I think most people are familiar with them. But for those people who are new, I may touch on brief explanations in the coming weeks. But I'll read these out loud in English. Everybody else, if you can mute, because it really gets out of sync and is hard to manage, but you can read along with me at home. We'll do them in English, starting with refuge and bodhicitta. And we traditionally place our hands together at our heart. If you ask a Tibetan Buddhist where his mind is, he'll point to here. He'll point to the middle of his chest. Heart and mind are really indistinguishable. 2 hands are joined, symbolizing the union of wisdom and compassion, which is enlightenment, the complete development of those 2 qualities in our mind, the state of Buddhahood that we can all attain. So we'll start with refuge and bodhicitta 3 times. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened, excuse me, to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. And now the 4 immeasurable wishes or aspirations. Immeasurable in that they're so large they include everyone. They're not limited just to people we know or people we like, but every living being. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends or hatred for enemies. And now we do a mandala offering, and there's a hand mudra that goes with this that some people know, but that's not the important part. I'll up like that. In this we're visualizing, which just means to imagine that we're taking all the wonderful things in the universe, the entire collection of everything wonderful that we can possibly imagine, and offer it to all living beings. So this is the ultimate generosity. This ground, anointed with perfume, strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, 4 continents, the sun, and the moon. I offer this as a Buddha field. I imagine this as a Buddha field and offer it. May all living beings enjoy this pure land. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kam Niryatayami. So those were our introductory prayers. Now we're going to do just a little bit of meditation. Let me get everybody's picture in here. Is there anyone who's never done any meditation before? Okay, that's fine. Okay, maybe not in the style that we practice at the Kadampa Center, but you have some familiarity with meditation. So we start by checking our posture. And when we meditate, it's good to sit a little bit straighter than we normally sit, not rigid, but just a little bit more erect. This is said to open up the energy channels in the body that are right in front of the spine. They can't be found when you dissect the body, but the energy winds, W-I-N-D-S, of the body flow there. And it's said that the consciousness rides on those winds. The mind rides on those winds like a rider on a horse. So there's a connection between body and mind in these energy channels. And so we sit a little bit straighter. Our head is maybe just a couple degrees in front of the vertical. Our eyes are either slightly opened or just lightly closed. Our mouth is lightly closed. Our tongue is on the hard palate behind our upper teeth. Our jaw is relaxed. Our shoulders are relaxed and down and a little bit back, again to open our chest and the energy channels. We're not hunched forward. Our upper arms are away from our torso. Our right hand is on left with thumbs touching. Again, the union of perfect wisdom and perfect compassion that are the qualities of enlightenment. If we're sitting in a chair, as most of us are probably, we're sitting a little bit forward in the chair. We're not leaning back. Our feet are flat on the floor, and it's fine to put a cushion underneath your feet. And if you're actually sitting on a cushion, then your legs are crossed in a posture that you find comfortable. And the point of the posture is to establish it in a way so that it's non-distracting, not so that we're torturing ourselves, but so that the posture maintains itself during the meditation and we don't really have to pay attention to it. So scan your body starting at the top of your head and moving down, and identify any sources of discomfort that may be there now and address them before the meditation. And we begin by taking 3 deep breaths from the abdomen so that the stomach expands on the in-breath and then comes back to our spine on the out-breath. Just 3 slow, deep breaths like that. And now we allow our breathing to return to its normal pattern. And we always begin the meditation by establishing our motivation. We did that during the prayers, but we'll reflect on it again for a moment. And any motivation is fine. But it's said that the most powerful motivation is known as the bodhicitta, the great mind motivation, which is the wish to become enlightened for the benefit of all living beings. So we think, I am doing this meditation so that it will make a positive imprint on my mind so that I can become enlightened to benefit others. And that's probably not a natural way of thinking for most of us. But even if with effort we think that way for a moment, that's enough. We have to kind of grit our teeth and get that out. So now we're going to begin our actual meditation, just a simple concentration meditation. Our mind, our awareness, our consciousness is on the physical sensation of the breath moving in and out through our nostrils. Mind on breath. Nothing more, nothing less than that. Just direct perception of the physical sensation of moving air. We're not visualizing it. We're not describing it. We're not thinking about it, but we're directly experiencing it. And every time we find ourselves thinking about something else, we just set that aside and come back to the breath. Over and over and over again. And that's the meditation. And we can end our meditation with a brief dedication. We acknowledge that we've done something positive by sitting quietly like this, working with our mind. That has made a positive imprint on our mind stream. And we think, may that positive imprint ripen in the future in a way that is beneficial to all living beings. And you can relax your concentration. Okay, so we are almost up to my 1 hour limit for tonight, and that's fine. First, we need to get clear on what we're talking about when we're using the word refuge. I'm going to read this a couple standard definitions from the Oxford Languages Dictionary. Refuge, a condition of being safe or sheltered from pursuit, danger, or trouble. That's pretty close to what we're going to be talking about here. Something providing shelter. That's also pretty close. And the third definition, an institution providing safe accommodations for women who have suffered violence from a spouse or partner. And that's an important definition, but it's not necessarily what we'll be talking about here. Now I'm going to give you one Buddhist definition of refuge. There are a lot of them. And it's a direction that one puts in one's life that will protect one from suffering and its causes. And when one reaches the goal of this direction, allows one to avoid suffering and its causes forever. Okay, so it emphasizes moving in a direction, not just a passive condition, but an active condition of having a direction to one's life, moving towards a goal. And the analogy that's frequently given is being out in a field and a tremendous thunderstorm comes up with pouring rain, lightning, hail, just being caught in a horrible situation or a bad situation, a problematic situation. But you also have the knowledge that on the other side of the field, there's a solid stone cabin that you've examined, and you know that would be a place of safety. Being out in the field and seeing how difficult conditions are is, from the Buddhist point of view, that's an analogy for an understanding of karma. What happened in the last module, what you talked about in the last module, an understanding that our actions have consequences in future lives, if we accept that. If not, they have consequences in this life. And our past actions of body, speech, and mind, some of them will cause us problems. Okay, that's just being realistic. That's realizing that you're out in the middle of a field in a lightning storm, and it's probably not the optimum place to be. Refuge is knowing that there's a safe place over there. You've checked it out, you examine it, you have faith that it's there and it's safe. Okay, being in the field or an understanding of karma, sometimes the word is used is fear, but that has a very negative connotation. Sometimes the word dread is used, which is not much better, I don't think. I refer to, it's like knowing that we shouldn't step in front of a speeding car, okay? You can call that knowledge fear. You can call it dread. I refer to it as the informed knowledge of the consequences of our actions. We know the results of our actions. We know that stepping in front of a speeding car is problematic. We know that experiencing the results of all our karma is going to have problems. The shelter, knowing there's a safe place over here, that's sometimes referred to as faith, but it's not blind faith. It's faith based on personal experience of having examined the shelter, checked it out, knowing it's there, okay? I know that it's a knowing kind of faith. I know that this safe place is over there. So being in the field is an understanding of karma, running towards the shelter that we know is reliable is the process of taking refuge. In the video that people talked a lot about things that they've taken refuge in the past. These are frequently referred to as worldly refuges, drugs, sex, rock and roll, also friends, position, job, family. The word worldly has kind of a negative connotation, and that's not really an accurate translation of how the Buddha described these other refuges. The Tibetan word is jig 10. You don't have to remember this, but this is just very interesting. I think Jigten. Ten means basis. Jig means falling apart. Okay, so when the Buddha referred to these as worldly refuges, he says the basis of them at some point or later will fall apart. That's just the nature of phenomena in the Buddhist view of the world. Everything that comes together, that exists, eventually falls apart. Okay, so anything that we take refuge in, our money, our job, our good health, our friendships, our reputation, it's a worldly refuge in that it will fall apart at some point, or fall apart, not just come apart. It will dissolve. It is not a permanent source of refuge. So in Buddhism, we talk about Buddhist refuge, which is taking refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, and we'll talk about each of those next week. That is considered a non-worldly refuge, in that those do not fall apart in the way that others do. Many people have probably heard of Lama Atisha. Does that name sound familiar to people? He was a great Indian master, and I'm just going to tell a little story to end tonight's class. After the death of, well, actually during Buddha's lifetime and shortly thereafter, Buddhism was practiced in Tibet. The Buddha taught in northern India, and primarily in the area that's the border between India and Nepal, but it did go to Tibet. And over the next few centuries, it basically became very degenerate. People became obsessed with various tantric practices and obscure philosophies, and with a complete lack of understanding of what the Buddha was really teaching. So in about the 10th century, the king of Tibet said, this is bad, this is not good. And so he sent a team of people into India. He said, bring us back some great teachers. And the primary one they brought back was Atisha, Lama Atisha, and he's considered the person who reestablished Buddhism in Tibet after this period of degeneration. And the two primary, we hear about Atisha a lot. He wrote lots of text. He wrote the Light on the Path that Lama Zopa is teaching at our annual retreats. But the two main topics that he taught to reestablish true Buddhism in Tibet were karma and refuge, to such a degree that he was referred to as Lama, Karma, and Refuge, because that's all that he would talk about most of the time. So that's just a little point to emphasize how critical those two topics are. And they're ones that are really applicable in life as we live it now. So I'm going to stop there. I would like you to begin the readings that Linda showed us on the page. Just understand that the readings do not parallel what I'll be talking about in these classes. They're kind of supplementary. So they may take a very different approach or touch on different topics, but they're interesting. So start reading those. I want you to establish your meditation practice, which means finding a time and a place that's dedicated to meditation. Don't just wait for it to happen. Say, I'm going to do it at 6 o'clock tonight or 5:30 tomorrow morning. I'd like you to sit in meditation for 10 minutes, 6 days out of the week. Start with the prayers, do the brief concentration meditation, and then end with a dedication. And then I would like you to make a list of things that you have taken refuge in during your life. And this is a private list. You're not going to have to share this with anyone. And I would just look at them in terms of how, and we're not criticizing those, okay? Many of them are wonderful things. The point is we bring expectations to them that are unrealistic. We expect them not to fall apart, and we expect them to always be reliable. So just look at them and kind of rank them maybe in terms of least to most reliable, what you found the most valuable worldly refuge, not worldly in a bad sense, but just worldly, and that's based on things that fall apart. And make a short list of that and just kind of examine them in terms of, did it fall apart? Is it persisting? Does it give me what I need? Do I feel protected there? So just a way to start thinking about this. If you have questions during the week, they can send them to you, Linda, and we'll address those next week. And we'll be talking about the 3 objects of refuge, what going for refuge as a continual practice means. We'll also talk about the refuge ceremony. Okay, refuge is often referred to as the gateway into entering the Buddhist path. So it's something that's worth talking about. And let's just do a brief dedication. Thank you everyone for showing up tonight. I went a little bit over my hour, but we had the video to watch, so next week we'll end right at 8. And thank you, Linda, for organizing this so well. Anything you want to add, Linda?
No, thanks everyone for being here tonight. It's good to see you all. And I don't have anything else. The homework will be posted later tonight. So.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Stay healthy and see you all next week.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you, Robbie. Thank you, Linda.
Thank you, Robbie.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Robbie. Thank you,
Thank you,
Linda.
Robbie.
Welcome.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you, Robbie.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Linda.
You guys have a great week. See you next week.